Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, my topic is about navigating agency in international students' mobility. Yeah, okay. So first of all, I would like to talk about my research background. Yeah, so we know that there are quite a lot, theoretical perspectives in the existing literature to talk about international students' mobility. So we know that international students' mobility is a key driver and outcome of higher education internationalization, fostering cross-border knowledge exchange, cultural interaction, and institutional competitiveness. Yeah. So given its important role, understanding the motivations behind students' study abroad decision remains a vital area of inquiry. So existing research has identified three distinct theoretical perspectives that provide valuable insights into the factors shaping international students' mobility and the decision-making process of international students. Yeah. So, So the first one is push-pull theory. Yeah. So this one remains widely used. Look at international students' mobility as interplay between push factors and pull factors. Yeah, but it's a structured determinism. Ignore students' subjective dimensions, such as students' imaginative perceptions of destination, countries, and institutions, and personal dimensions shaping international students' mobility. Yeah, and the second group perspective view international students as a strategic pursuit of capital accumulation. Yeah, so it includes, for example, human capital theory, cultural capital theory, rational choice theory, and consumer decision-making model. Yeah, so this group of theory are often critical for their utilitarian bias and overlook the broad motivations and transformative potential of international education. Yeah. And the third perspective, led by Marginson, introduced self-formation, redefining international students as active agents engaging into self-cultivation and self-improvement through international education. So while existing studies have significantly advanced the understanding of agency in international students' mobility, they still have key limitations. First of all, they just gave insufficient attention to pre-departure agency. Most of research focuses on post-arrival agency, so overlooking how students negotiate social economic constraints, cultural expectations, and barriers before departure. And also, while some agency studies adopt a temporal lens, their framework lacks depth in examining where past self-position comes from and how it informs individuals' future aspirations and how it shapes present evaluations and pathway choice process. So it also fails to differentiate how agency appears across life stages, interpret their paths differently, and adopt different strategies. So treating agency as uniform disregard this dependence on age, career progressions, and personal circumstances. Yeah. Okay. So based on these limitations, I just developed three research questions. Yeah. So the first one is how do past experience shape international students' aspirations and decision to study abroad? And the second one, how do present structural factors enable or constrain their decision making? And the last one is how do they envision their future aspiration and how do this shape their decision to study abroad? Yeah. So the theoretical framework I use is Proto triad of agency. So based on the this framework, it just proposed the three elements of agency in three temporal dimensions: the past, the future, and the present. Yeah. So the first one is interracial element. So this one just refer to selective reaction of past through patterns and habitual action, providing stability and order to social universe and helping to sustain identities, interactions, and institutions over time. So this one is a focus on past. Yeah, and the second one is the projective element. This one just focus on future. So this imaginative generation of possible future trajectories of action, allowing actors to reconfigure existing structure in alignment with their aspiration, fears, and desires. Yeah, and the last one is practical evaluative elements. So this one is focusing on present. Yeah, so this means the capacity to assess and navigate present and evolving situations by making strategic judgment among alternative course of action. Yeah. Okay, so I used a case study for this study. Case study. Yeah. So the case is I focusing on Chinese students, master students in Australia. So we know that China is the largest source of international students, and it has the largest international students group globally. Yeah. So Australia, which is the third most popular destination for Chinese students after the US and UK, so China remains Australia's largest source of international students. Yeah, and why I focus on master students? Because master students is the largest subgroup among Chinese students in Australia. And also master students have great differences in age, occupational background, and familial and marital, status. Yeah, placing them in more complex social and personal context. So examine this, various and sizable group provide valuable insight into the dynamics of international students' mobility, particularly in understanding how personal, professional, and social economic factors shape their educational choice and mobility pathways. Yeah. Okay. So I set up a few, criteria to select my participants. Yeah. First one is they must hold a Chinese passport and be from mainland China, and also they have to have completed at least 12 years of schooling in China. And also they are currently, enrolled in an Australian master's program for a maximum of 6 months. Yeah. Totally, I got 25 participants to join my semi-structured interview. Yeah, and also I use thematic analysis method to analyze my data. Okay, so let's look at the findings. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so this study, first examine participants, their family background, so which provide insight into social economic, positioning through education, occupation, and the material resources. According to Chinese middle class criteria, I find that most participants, there are 21 out of 25, meet these standards. Yeah, so they're coming from social, financially stable families with professional background, and their families typical own property or cars, and satisfying the income standard. Yeah, and also I find age played a crucial role in shaping participants' agency in this study. So the data identify two subgroups. Yeah, so the first one is a recent graduates. Yeah, there are 16 out of 25, aged 21 to 24, who completed their undergraduate studies within the past 2 years. And another group is working professionals. We have 9 out of 25, typically around 35 years old with 8 to 15 years of working experience. Yeah, so we may find the two groups of participants, they are just at different life stages. And this group navigating international students' mobility within distinct social and professional context influence their motivations and capacity to act. Okay, so let's look at the first element of agency, which is interracial elements of agency. So we found that individuals draw on past cognitive and behavioral patterns to navigate their present structured context. So these habitual patterns often tacit and taken for granted shape response to external circumstances. Habitual actions are deeply embedded in their life history, shaped by family influence, educational, experience, and cultural norms. They all together informing their decision-making process. Yeah. So in international students' mobility, those actions reflect social culture inheritance passed down through families and their prior experience, creating a foundation for individuals to act in ways that align with their family strategies for managing external pressures and opportunities. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at one of the participants, Ye, and he was deeply impacted by his grandparents, both university professors whose lifelong dedication to education shaped his worldview. So their encouragement and guidance were instrumental in his decision, especially when his undergraduate institution's lower ranking hidden postgraduate admission in China. So their personal experience reinforced his belief in educational transformative power, making international study a natural extension of his family's long-standing academic values. And he said in the interview, my grandparents always told me that education was a key to open doors. So their stories make me believe that study abroad could provide opportunities I wouldn't have otherwise. Okay, so for the professional participants, family influence on their decision to study abroad was more complex. Yeah, some received support similar to recent regrets, while others encountered resistance or opposition from their family. So Hai is one of the professional participants. He said he encountered strong opposition from her parents, who reviewed further education as empirical given her age and circumstances. And she said, my parents find it ridiculous that at my age, I'm still thinking about study abroad. They didn't give me any support. Yeah. So when we look at Hai's background, and she told us she just grew up in a small town with a very limited opportunities. And she had long viewed education as a key to transformation. So she said, education changed my destiny. I got into university, secured a job at a top tech company, and advanced my career. Now I'm facing challenges at my work. So I still believe education is my best way forward. Yeah. So rather than conforming to familial expectation, Hai actively exercised agency through reflection and strategic action. Yeah. So we may ask why the middle class hold such conviction in education's transformative power. So from Marxist perspective, the middle class characteristic as high salaried, yet on little means of production. So their social economic standards is from their knowledge and expertise, which unlike land and labor cannot be directly inherited. So to safeguard their position, education become the primary primary way or pathway for intergenerational knowledge transmission. So has historically functioned as a path-dependent strategy for securing their social economic stability. Yeah, okay. And next, let's look at the second element of agency. Yeah, so we find most graduate participants initially, to looking for jobs domestically in China before, to choose to study abroad. But because they face limited opportunities, in China, and hesitated to accept positions perceived as misaligned their qualifications. So in China, higher education is widely regarded as a key pathway to upward mobility. So many feared that taking blue-collar job would devalue their degrees and subject them to social stigma due to the perceived mismatch between their degrees and occupation. So many believed their undergraduate institutions' ranking directly impact their employability. So, however, the domestic graduate program in China is very, very competitive. So study abroad become a strategic alternative. So many participants believe a master's degree from a prestigious overseas institution would enhance their qualifications and job prospects. So many participants describe this process as gold plating. Yeah. And for the working professional, they're different. A significant factor influenced their decision was the 35-year-old crisis in Chinese labor market, where hiring buyers very younger employees and leaving old professionals vulnerable to job displacement despite their extensive work experience. So beyond economic concerns, many participants reevaluate their long-term aspirations. Study abroad become a means of pursuing personal meaning, allow them to pursue long-defined dreams. So education is a pathway to self-actualization, enable participants to redefine their life meaning in alignment with their aspiration. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the last one. The last element is practical evaluative elements of agency. Yeah, so in this part, we find there are three, subgroups. The first one is capacity assessment. Yeah, so before making their decision, participants carefully evaluate their financial capacity and English proficiency, the two factors shaping their confidence in studying in Australia. All participants acknowledge that it is very necessary to secure sufficient financial resources for study abroad. So they assessed their tuition fee, living expenses, and potential income over the next 1 or 3 years to determine affordability without placing on, any, strain on themselves or on their family. So for graduate participants, financial capacity largely depends on their parents' economic capacity. Yeah, but for professionals, usually independently assess their own financial capacity, balancing their savings, mortgage, and family responsibilities. Yeah. And also language proficiency was another critical consideration. While graduates, having recently completed their undergraduate studies, felt more confident. Professionals who had been out of school for many years felt greater challenges. Yeah. And the second one is determination to change. Yeah. So we find in our interview, we found, most of participants show a very strong determination to transform their circumstances through international education. So for recent graduates, studying abroad was not only an extension of their students' roles, but also a rejection of uncertain and restrictions. Yeah. So for the professionals, they face great challenges, including changing from, established careers to a full-time students, resign from stable jobs, reorganizing their financials, and manage their family responsibilities. Yeah. Despite differences in life stage and circumstances, both groups were united by their resistance to structured environment and their conviction that change was necessary, no matter how difficult. Yeah. And the last one is a pathway identification. Yeah, we find most of participants, 20 participants, initially considered other destinations before selecting Australia. So for graduates, secure admission to a prestigious university with their top priority, making ranking as a decisive factor in their decision making. Yeah, participants approach their institution selection with a customer-oriented mindset. So as one of the participants said, Australia is the best choice for me. It has 4 universities in the top 50 of the QS ranking, so which offer me excellent value for money. Yeah. However, once selecting a major, they shift to a investor, perspective by priority, fields with strong employment prospects and financial returns. Yeah. So, but let's look at professionals. Professionals review international education as a means to escape career stagnation and social constraints, with long-term settlement as their key priority. So immigration policies significantly influence their choice, with many selecting Australia for this favorable migration pathway. So their major selection choice was driven by migration prospects as well. Yeah. So one of the participants said, IT was not my dream career, but it was on the skilled, migration list. Yeah. So which would help me to qualify for migration. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So lastly, yeah, I would like to, to discuss, the purpose of study international students. Yeah. So the first one, I think, through study international students, yeah, just give us opportunity to understand the complex and multidimensional factors influencing their decision-making process, experience, and mobility trajectories. Yeah. However, existing theoretical models such as push-pull theory, human capital theory, and cultural capital theory often present international students' mobility as a rational economic decision, overlooking the agency that students using in navigating structural, constraints. So by studying international students, researcher can move beyond simplistic framework to capture the interplay between personal aspirations, social economic factors, and institutional structures in shaping their choice. Yeah. And also, because this study specifically examine Chinese master students in Australia. So, and also we use the Crodel triad of agency framework to explore how past experience, present evaluations, and future aspirations shape their mobility decision. So understanding international student agency is essential for challenging deterministic models that portray them as a passive actors responding to external force. Yeah. So instead, it highlights their active role in negotiating opportunities and constraints, strategically align their education with long-term career, social, and personal aspirations. So by focusing on pre-departure agency, so this research contributes to a more context sensitive and temporarily embedded understanding of international students' mobility, offering insights that can inform policy, institutional support, and future research on global students' mobility. And lastly, I would like to say that this study highlights the purpose of researching international students as a means to examine broad social issues in education, culture, and social mobility. Yeah.